Let me please introduce you to our next speakers who will join the panel. Andrei Dubinin, the head of Hypercasual at My.Games, Dmitry Gubanenkov, the senior marketing manager at KakaoGames, Goncalo Alemao Martins, lead UA and monetization at Homa Games, and the moderator of the session, Roman Garbar, product marketing manager at Tenjin. And do we have the guys here in the studio? Yeah, we do. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
Very well. Thank you very much.
Cool. I assume we're very international today. Where are you guys located?
Well, currently I'm in Lisbon, although normally on My.Games we are located in Paris, but I've took some time to quarantine in Portugal, where I'm from.
Not the worst place, huh?
No, not bad, not bad.
What about you guys?
I'm based in Amsterdam. It's a bit rainy today, as it was like for quite some weeks, but still super nice place to be.
Me, even though My.Games is the international gaming brand of Mail.ru Group, I'm based where the action is, right in the center of Moscow. So hello.
Yeah, and I'm your friendly neighbor from Berlin, Elena, just across the street.
Well,
yeah.
Technically today, yes. Today you're my neighbor.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much for taking time and joining us today in the studio. We're very excited to listen to your session and hope you enjoyed as much as we will. Over to you.
Yeah, we will definitely will. So initially, we were going to discuss the latest trends of the hypercasuals and the effect of the COVID-19. But like roughly 3 weeks ago, everything has changed with iOS 14 introduction. And this is affecting everyone, from publishers to developers, literally everyone, advertisers, ad networks, even Facebook and Google. And I'm really proud that we got this awesome group of panelists for today. I think it's the first time where we can discuss those changes in a group. So to kick things off, I prepared a set of slides for you. I will start sharing my screen now. Right.
But yeah, I think the key question we're all going to try and answer here is, what are we thinking about iOS 14? Is it more of an opportunity or more of an impediment? I think there are many cool views to take here.
Exactly. And just to kick things off, so the iOS 14 will be released in September. And this is what it means. Like, there are two perspectives. The first perspective is the user, and the second one is advertiser. For user, it's just another pop-up when they launch a new app, which you can see on the screen. But for advertiser, if they say that they are not allowing tracking, it means you won't see this install as an advertising install. And that changes the whole advertising game. Guys, let's start with you, Goncalo. How many users do you think would allow to track their advertising ID?
Yep. I mean, so hello everybody. My name is Goncalo. I'm the leader user acquisition monetization at My.Games. And just to give you context, we are an hypercasual publisher. And yeah, so that's why I'm going to give my view mainly, of course, on hypercasual. And starting from there, I think, of course, I don't have any like very concrete number of how many people will allow this tracking. However, what I think is that nowadays, given that there's so many pop-ups that users are already used to, so even in desktop, even in all other types of mobile apps, like pop-ups nowadays, they're starting to get more and more normal for the user. I think that, of course, even though more than for sure 50% of the people that will see this pop-up will not allow the tracking. I think the user, maybe especially after a few months, they will start being more friendly with this pop-up and allow tracking more often. As well, I think for casual games more than hyper-casual, users will allow it more and more, because I think that casual users and casual players, they prefer to not harm at all their gameplay and be sure that they can take the most out of any game. So I think hyper casual versus casual, you're going to see more allow of tracking on casual. However, it's just, of course, an hypothesis. We need to go into the iOS 14 to see it.
Got it. Andrew, what do you think?
Me? It's Andrei. So yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. First of all, I second Goncalo in that the change will there is likely to be a temporary impediment, and that, I mean, most of us don't like when we see unfamiliar things. I mean, we used to question the pop-ups we see on the web, like we are using cookies to track you, and we've grown used to that over time. So I'm not as worried because, you know, with hyper casual you have these absolutely huge numbers of players, and with some more niche genres like, I don't know, casual or midcore, you will see, you know, certain audiences that are more prone to rejecting this kind of pop-up, and others who are more willing to accept. But, you know, the bigger question that I would ask myself is, how much data do I need to make the decisions about my game? So say only 20% of the users accept the pop-up. Is that going to be enough for me to help optimize my game? Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, everyone has a different approach. But, you know, you have to ask yourself the bigger question. And it's also curious to hear out why is it that Apple introduced this kind of functionality, and how do they intend to help developers with it?
Right. I agree, and we'll talk about the different data sets in one of my next slides too. So it would be also interesting to hear your opinion. Dmitry, what's your take on that?
So the thing is that we can compare this pop-up with a limited tracking button, and the thing is the percentage of people who have switched LUT on has doubled on iPhone in last like 4 years or something like that. Right now in US, around 32% of users are with LUT on. So I think that with this new pop-up and with all these privacy things happening, I would say 70 or 80% will just people won't allow to track their information, because still it's privacy is a huge thing, especially in US, and with the California law, which is also connected with the privacy, it's a big issue. And I think that around like 70 to 80% will disable tracking in tier 1 countries.
Got it. And it's good that you rate the privacy, right? And I just want to highlight this is like not only affects IDFA, so-called like device ID, the one that all the attributions are using right now. It also affects other ID, included one of the fallbacks from IDFA attribution, which is fingerprint. So it means that there will be a new reality, right? Depends on like how much, is it like 50% of users or 80% of users? There should be something new for them. So at this moment, it's like pretty clear, right? So whatever type of metric do you need, you just go to your like friendly MMP and get it. That like as simple as that, right? So I got this like simplified version of the table. Just go to MMP and get it. But Apple has introduced a new framework for attribution. And again, like for the privacy reason, we tend to think that the big guys like Facebook and Google tend to adopt it first, which means Apple would be now providing this data. However, it's much more limited, and it's aggregated data and not already user level data. And one thing that I can see right now, right, is the creative. Like, Dmitry, what do you think? How are you going to work without like data for creatives, for example, on Facebook?
So the thing is, there won't be any data. So the only thing, the only thing still, ad networks will be able to provide with information about CTRs. So CTR would be still a huge signal of how good is the creative. I know that right now hyper-casual advertisers would like to see around 5% CTR on Facebook, and it usually highlights that it's a nice benchmark to invest into the game. But I think that in this case, there won't be a lot of options, and I'll probably focus my creative testing only on Android, and I'll roll out learnings to iOS. And still, we just will know how like user click on it, but just not why and what they do next. That would be pity, but I think that would be the only option.
Right. No, but that's a really good point about Android, right? It's still available.
Still.
And yeah, still the keyword. But like Andrew, like I know that like hyper-casuals are sometimes doing a creative first and then launching a game if the creative
Always.
as well.
Always.
What do you think? What did the workaround? Just like Dima said, or
So again, I don't really like workarounds. I just like thinking about it from various angles. So first of all, I completely agree that CTR could become a focus, and you could do two things. First of all, approach CTR with a greater level of granularity, and make decisions from that. It's a really interesting question to consider, and it's a whole other different topic in itself. Number two, and an immediate actionable could be just, work with CTR risks. You can boost the threshold. So you could say, okay, it used to be CTR 5, now it's CTR 10. I'm not quite sure what the exact number will be for each publisher, but I'm not omitting the fact that some might opt for that immediate solution. And third thing is you could probably explore, it would probably be a booster of exploring new ways of approaching, the campaign in general, but that's another huge topic. And the most important thing is that we know about this now. We know that creatives will be harder to track and to measure. So now would be the absolute best time to roll out a number of simultaneous campaigns in both iOS and Google Play, and see if there is any direct correlation between specific creatives in these networks, platforms. And then if we do see some sort of correlation, then we can use that as an index for future decision-making on iOS. Those are just like, immediate actionables. I'm sure there's way more stuff to consider there.
Oh, that's really good. I think that's already actionable. Again, Goncalo, I got a different question. Another thing is missing in the new data set that Apple will provide. That's cohort-based metrics like LTV and ROI, and the same is country, right? But as you can see here, like MMPs will still be able to provide the LTV-based metrics on a country level for organic users. Do you think it's something like feasible, or maybe it's feasible only for like small developers? What do you think about that?
I think so. Yeah, of course. And just like Andrei said, I think especially the UA teams will become like much more technical and BI driven, because we'll need to, and I think it is right now possible to start finding ways to read the data differently. And exactly like you're telling me, of course, the SK ad network from Apple is not giving us the creative and the country level. However, like you can go to the RMP, have the country level, and then you can start with the aggregated data taking some conclusions. For example, something that you can also already do right now is indeed compare Android versus iOS, like Andrei said and Dmitry said. However, you can also, for example, in some networks already do campaigns with users that have the limited ad tracking on versus limited ad tracking off. And you can start from nowadays, and in Homa we're already doing this test, we can start already see what's the main difference. Of course, that as soon as this new feature on the iOS 14 comes out, all the market will change. So even the CPMs will maybe decrease a lot. Even the way the advertisers are showing ads will change. So of course, this test of limited ad tracking on versus off is not going to be exactly the same as having the IDFA off from the start. However, there's these tricks that you can already start doing to understand what's going to be the main impact. And this one, several networks, they offer this possibility on your UA, and it can be definitely an option to start at least predicting what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I like that all you guys mentioned, like, this is not the end, right? And no one would stop advertising, right? And that brings me actually to my last slide. So this is like a typical, like, 7 stages of greening curve. And I called it like 7 stages of green for ready fade. And like the first, and the thing was for me like shock. Well, what can I do now? Everything that I knew doesn't exist. So then like depression, and now I feel like we should be on the problem solving stage, right? And you're already like providing some like exact and actionable and practical advices how to handle with that. What was your first reaction when you heard about like this iOS 14 change, Andrei?
I think I've skipped past the first 5 stages. I'm always at acceptance because, you know,
Nice.
the platforms out there are built by very smart people, and I think they usually build them for the best possible user experience, which is what the developer and the publisher and the ad networks, wherever everyone is trying to deliver something which is, well, you know, the worst case less annoying, and in the best case makes your day better. So I'm at the acceptance stage, and I understand that the market will change every 3 or so months. So I would get right to the problem solving, and to get there, we just have to establish the context. Hey, we used to know a bit more, and now we're going to know. Well, we're going to have a bit less information. So I would take it to the absolute extreme and imagine myself in a place where I have 0 information from the platform. And as a developer, I would ask myself, what can I do to help my publisher get the information they need? As a publisher, I would do the exact same thing. I'd reach out to developers and ask them, hey guys, let's brainstorm this. Let's see if we can find other interesting ways of tracking. And, you know, the same goes, but at a much higher level, I guess, to our advertising and attribution partners. So, I mean, it's the greatest thing about it is we know it at least a month and a half in advance, and we have time to think it through, not too much maybe, and just, you know, come up with a bunch of hypotheses and test them as they come.
Got it. Dima, what's your take?
I'm still in denial. It's like no, because like still all the years, all like how many last 5-7 years, it was about like the granularity. You would like to go as deep as possible. Header bidding, creative tracking, user level data. It was there. All the LTV prediction model were built based on these data sets. They were trained based on these data sets, and like in 1 month you will just lose all your knowledges, and you need to change the whole tech stack, the way of tracking ROAS, just thinking about the user acquisition. So still I'm in denial.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, Goncalo, what do you think?
Well, I think this curve has two timelines. You have like after, before the idea of the iOS 14 comes out, and after. So I think you can replicate because I think like as soon as the news comes out, of course you have this behavior. Right now we're already in the problem solving, trying to fix. But I think like you're gonna have the repetition of the curve as soon as the iOS 14 comes out, because to be honest, we really don't know the impact. If our CPMs they go from $30 to $2, you are again in shock, you are again in anger, and you need to again go back to the problem solving. So I hope this problem solving that we are trying all together to find is gonna be like, it's gonna be great. It's exactly what we're expecting. Although I think we're gonna go back to the curve as soon as the iOS 14 comes out. Let's just hope it's 2 weeks and not 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there'll be more. Well, there will be more problems. I totally agree with you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it with my slides. Let's just quickly switch to
Thank you.
panel discussion. Guys, like Andrew, I know you have a hard stop, like in 3 minutes, but I have one question actually that I want to ask you. What is the effect on the ad revenue for the hypercasual from that? One of the opinions that I heard that the ad revenue would go down because advertisers can't do the targeted advertisement right now. What do you think about that? Do you agree with that statement?
It's a really good question, and to either agree or disagree, I think we need to have a much deeper conversation. And the bigger question I would ask myself is, what do we do about revenue? Right now, we are at the situation where we are, where we're seeing that most of the hypercasual publishers are profiting from the ad-driven model, but others are making other progress. So it's I can't comment on the direct question that you'd asked me, but I'd love to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, that might be a good topic for next conversation, right?
Yep.
Maybe for the last 2 minutes, your tips for publishers or developers that are in this situation right now.
Stay open and stay hungry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Andrei. Now, guys, I still got you, Goncalo, Dmitry. What's your take on ad revenue? I know there is not like enough of information at all, but any like predictions?
I think if I can start there, I think there's something something interesting that we need to think about is the specificities of the hyper-casual market. And let's be honest, like 95% of our ad revenue comes from other hyper-casual publishers, advertisers. So I'm very curious because, of course, the conversion rates, they will change a bit because, of course, you lose the tracking, you lose the ability to follow the user. However, the specificity of an hypercasual user and an hypercasual ad, they are very similar across the board, right? So the CVRs and CVRs, they should not change that much, which can, like, at least this is still what I'm kind of hoping for, is that everyone and all the advertisers that are very focused on mobile advertising, on gaming advertising, sorry, and that they know the users, they know the supply and the demand, they will keep this loop and this ecosystem very closed. And what I want to say is that if you keep all the players right now that are advertising inside this very friendly ecosystem and very always the same users and the same advertisers, the CVR and CTRs, they cannot change that much. So we, on our side of publishers, we'll keep seeing the revenue coming in, we'll keep seeing the installs being acquired. On the advertiser side, they'll keep seeing the installs, they will keep receiving the money. So maybe there's a chance that in this very closed environment, things may remain, of course, not the same, but the drop will not go to the 80%. Maybe they'll go to the 20%. And this is something that I'm very curious.
Andrew, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I guess expand on what Goncalo is saying. It's better to try and work with what you can control rather than with what you can't control and with what you already know. Some of the knowledge that you have gained over time might still be relevant. For example, there will still be tier 1 markets, and I don't mean it just in terms of advertising, I also mean it in terms of just overall standard of living, which directly correlates to the advertising potential. And the second thing is, it might be a very good time to take a look at the kind of audiences that are making money. So in hypercasual, for example, if you look at China, you will see that I'm guessing somewhere between 60 to 80%. I don't have the data in front of me, but somewhere around that comes from male audiences, from specific male audience. So what kind of games do those people need? And this is something which is much easier to control than losing the level of granularity for both the publisher and the developer on an overall pipeline strategy.
I see. Yeah, and that's interesting, right? Because you usually think about hypercasuals like, oh, just throw money at the broadest categories that you can get and get the lowest CPIs.
So that's the advantage. I mean, right now with you see like how many, like day one ROAS should be around 50% or something like that. So in this case, it would be much easier to influence the campaign, to see the performance, to manage your new media mix, because when you pour additionally 100K in one day for one new source, you will see the impact the day after. So all other advertisers don't have this advantage. And also, of course, Goncalo mentioned it correctly, like hypercasual is still kind of a bubble, whereas auditor is moving from one hypercasual game to another. So that's why there shouldn't be a huge decrease in eCPMs. And also, I'm quite sure that there would be a lot of ads shown from non-hypercasual advertisers, because not all of them are familiar what will and how the industry will change after iOS 14. So some advertisers will pour their money to hypercasual publishers for sure.
Yeah,
So
that's a go ahead.
So I think for hypercasual it would be pretty stable and much more predictable situation than for any other in the industry. Of course, header bidding, if you're using it, it will decrease the efficiency. And Facebook, of course, if it's like 70% of your revenue coming from Facebook and Google ads, in this case, of course, it will affect your eCPMs, because Facebook and UACs are strongly connected with user level data. But if you working a lot with other SDK ad networks, I think you won't see such a dramatic decrease in revenue.
Guys, I have to excuse myself. Thank you so much for inviting me over and for having me. It's a pleasure talking about topics like these, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all fine people again.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
The audience for listening to us babble on about things that might or might not happen.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Yeah.
But that's a really good point, right, Dmitry? In terms of UA, I don't want to be a strategy developer right now. I won't see my ROI on day, or even a year from now. I'm just, and I need to get this really small group of users, males 45 plus, I don't know. And hypercasuals actually have an advantage, right, in terms of UA, I guess, at least. Let's talk about maybe some actionable things that like publishers can do right now. So when I look at this and I have like 1 month until the September, should I like just double down on my iOS budget right now? What do you think?
Well, I can go. No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because there's even if you think about it, there's always the 1% chance that 90% of the users will allow tracking. So you never know that can happen, and that's especially if your business is coming like 70% from iOS. Of course, you shouldn't double down on that. However, it's yeah, that's it. We already have, like I told you, like we spoke actually, we already have limited ad tracking users, and we already can predict more or less how they behave. So there's, I mean, of course, there's always something else to do. Apple, they have not released any like strict guidelines prohibiting fingerprinting. So I think there's always like so many things to do. The users, they will still be there. The advertisers, they will still be there. The money is going to be there. We just need to find a quick way. And I think like using your BI tools to just adapt a bit all this aggregated data, because still you can advertise using aggregated data. We did it 5 years ago. So I think it's done. It's possible. We just need to again like update a bit our BI tools. However, yeah, that's it. Also, like Dmitry said very well, maybe on the monetization side, reduce a bit the bidding. I really don't know the impact on this. I think that the bidding will suffer a bit with this change. But that's it. We all know how to use waterfalls. We all know how to make money with waterfalls. I think it's going to be a very special times, but everything is doable.
I really like your positive attitude and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be positive, otherwise we close doors.
Yeah, Dima, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that the main advantage of the whole hyper-casual industry is that it can evolve and change super fast. And in this especially in this kind of situation, it is the power, and I'm quite sure it won't suffer so much. Also, one of the nice thing of hyper-casual publisher is that you can still use IDFA when you've got for cross promotion. So that's also a super nice thing. It's enormously valuable data, and quite sure that there would be some merge and acquisition on the market.
That's a good point. Really good point. Yeah. Yeah. Can't edit anything, Dima. All right. So we need to wrap this up, guys. Just like Dima, let's start with you. Any like last words for the advertisers or publishers that are dealing with it right now?
I mean, one thing which we didn't cover is like fraud, because right now there would be a lot of you just need to believe the data from ad networks, and I mean it would be super hard to do without the MMPs. And in this case, well, we'll see how it will go. I mean, like top ad networks, I'm quite sure they will still fight against it, but would be harder to add some new sources. And yeah. And of course, Android, we don't know what will happen with Google, but usually it follows the same direction. So maybe in 6 months or a year, we will see the same thing on Android, and at least we will be prepared.
Yeah, hopefully you'll definitely have the tools that's ready for like aggregated based data optimization. I don't even know how to call it now. Goncalo, what are your tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about a lot of things. I think maybe something interesting as well is that if we really lose all this user level data, maybe it makes sense to go back, maybe try to go back a bit to some advertising types that are not trackable, just like, I don't know, let's imagine like TV ads, go back to desktop, go back to even like programmatic, and maybe we'll find something there. Definitely at My.Games, we are taking this very seriously. We're already like seeing on why not try test these new ad types, and maybe new that are old, but for hyper-casual that are definitely new. And maybe here there's also like a new opportunity to maybe even out where we advertise and not just one spot. Can be interesting.
Oh, definitely, like branding here. Cooperation with some brands can be a big thing.
Yeah, for sure. You can like maybe even get a boost on your brand, and then from there you get much more installs. Why not?
Yeah, just like with Dmitry right now, right? So we can see like how many installs Epic Brands got in this period of time while we had.
Let's see.
Or how many new Nerf guns were sold? Like a couple of months.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. I think that was really insightful. There were a lot of good tips. And as I said, let's keep us in the problem solving stage, and I'm sure this industry will stay. It's like, yeah, it's challenges, but even more opportunity for other players in the game. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
having
much.
us.
Thank you very much for
Thank you
inviting
very
us.
much, guys, for the very interesting session. And Andrei, thank you to you too, even though you had to leave us a bit earlier today. Anyway, thanks a lot. And we have a few questions for you guys, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Sure.
So the very first one. Do you think there might be more steps from the platforms to restrict UA tools, despite IDFA?
Oof. Well, that's a hard question. Like, I mean, I can answer, but that's exactly what Dmitry said. Like, I think for sure Google, not for sure, but maybe Google will follow the same line. Given that, of course, with these new IDFA issue, now Apple has all the power on the user coming from iOS, of course, because they know what they're gonna do until the App Store. They know that maybe they even know what they do after store. They just don't share. However, like this gives a great power to the platforms, restricting even more. I have not even thought about it because let's stay on this spot first, but let's hope not. I don't know if the other panelists have a different idea.
Thank you,
I think-
Goncalo. What do you guys think?
No, I think only if Google will follow it would be again an issue, but I can't imagine right now that that it can go further in this direction.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It doesn't get like worse. I'm sorry, but but I think there will be improvements. This is I think it will go into opposite direction. So maybe in a year there will be an update that will support those like creatives or campaign. It's not. It is like privacy friendly, like not to have exact information about specific users on the user level, but at least on aggregated level, it's like technically possible, and I don't think that violates any privacy policies.
Okay. Thanks very much for the answers, guys. The next one. In your presentation, you've mentioned the 7 stages of grading for IDFA, but where do you think generally the majority of the industry is? At what level?
I think like denial, or like just waiting maybe on in September nothing will happen, or another stage that I've noticed, I won't call names, but it's like bargaining. So that, oh, there is like a solution X that we can use now, or like, what if we'll do this? What do you think, Apple? And Apple is not replying. So I guess this is where we are. We're somewhere in the middle, but we need to be more on a stage where our panelists were today. Like, how do we use the data that Apple allows us to use? Because any other like workarounds, as Andrew said, can be shut down like immediately, and any like automation, any infrastructure that you build, this is gone. Well, yeah, maybe guys, you have a different opinion. What do you think?
I just I think that if for some reason you are a publisher and you are that's on the initial phases, please, or even like on the denial part, thinking that it's not gonna affect you as much. Yeah, please do start like maybe working a bit on it. Of course, count on your partners, on your MMPs, on your ad networks. Basically, we're going to be affected by the changes, of course, of the MMPs and of the ad networks. However, I think we should definitely accept it and find a solution for it. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. I mean, something, it's going to happen for sure. It's going to affect us for sure. At least we are ready and aware of what's going on. But I would say I know a lot of publishers, they are definitely on the denial part or on the anger part, trying to fight Apple. And right now, that's not where you want to be. I'm very happy that there's big companies fighting Apple, so that maybe then iOS 15 is going to go back. But that's not where like My.Games or that's not where we should be. We should be definitely on the problem solving part.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much. And moving on to the next question. You guys mentioned that the hyper-casual is a bubble, and where users basically going from one hyper-casual game to another one. Do you think that the audience is still growing, or is it more like shifting from one to another? What's the tendency, I guess?
I think it's super hard to say about the audience right now after the whole story with COVID, because it's really hard to say why the DAO will growing up just because there is like more audience who would like to play the games in general, or just there are people who just accidentally install it and when they go back to work they won't play the games. That's why it's super hard to say what is the correct answer there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, still, I think it's a very, for now, a very healthy and still kind of new industry and genre. So I still think it's growing a lot. You can see it every day on the top charts. Also, I'm sure that brands sooner or later they'll start believing on the hypercasual user. Like they have to, otherwise they are definitely on not on 2020. And we're gonna see more brands. So we're gonna see other type of content on the game, other type of advertisers, also other type of users that are more friendly with brand advertising. So it's definitely like evolving and growing. It's definitely not decreasing, or the users are not going away from hypercasual.
Yeah, and there are more like genres inside of genres, right? So we got a client who's Fun Games who actually introduced hyper idle games, and it's kind of mixed with in-app purchases. And of course, the hybrid casual that everyone is talking about, but like because of iOS 14 and the COVID, it's all like kind of, but it's still there. It's just like a different level of discussion, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, guys. Well, and since we started talking about like, what do you think is going to happen to like, how is the players' behavior will change by the end of the year? What is the prediction, your personal predictions? Like, is it going to grow or keep like on the same level, or people just gonna stop playing, come back to normal life and pretend nothing happened?
Well, yeah, regarding, I mean, there's two things, right? There's the COVID effect, and let's see, but nowadays I think people they are going more out to the streets and everything, especially in Europe, and you can feel that the daily active users, they remain on the same level after that slight increase. So I think that's it, like we gain a lot of users that became accustomed to hypercasual. It's normal, especially during summer, and maybe in Europe, during summer, it's always like the worst time of the year for users because people have more things to do, they go out and everything. However, I do, regarding the DFAs, either the targeting, it's so hard to do that users will see ads that totally don't match their profile, and maybe they will get out of our games faster. However, I really don't think there's going to be like a huge impact coming from this change, from the iOS change on the user behavior. That's it.
Thank you very much. Do you guys want to add something?
Maybe, yeah, go ahead, Dima.
So I think like you need like how many 40 days to develop a new habit, and I think people stayed in home and they had these 40 days. That's why I'm quite sure that there would be decrease comparing with May, April, but it would be definitely, the average DAO would be much higher than it was in like January or February, for sure. So that's at least what I think would be an effect of COVID for especially hyper-casual games, but I also think that the whole entertainment sector would be there. And as for IDFA and all these things happening, I think in a year, most of UA teams just need to change their approach from bottom to up to and go for work like in a brand, like brand performance / mark user acquisition, so something like that. So it would be a combination of these two different options.
Yeah, and I will just add, I look at it from advertising perspective. Like one thing that 90% will go down, in my opinion, is the CPIs. They already like the first time we are doing like annual report for the CPIs and other stuff. And this is like the first time when we did it, and the CPIs are not going up. they're going a little bit down, slightly down due to COVID. So maybe there will be more, and now with iOS 14, I think they will go even further to the bottom, and that could create more opportunities to target more players.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roman. Thank you guys for your answers for the questions. Dear audience, if you have any more, please feel free to ask in the chat by the mainstream window. And I'm sure that you guys will be happy to join in later on and answer all of them.
Definitely.
Yeah, if you have time. Beautiful. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you.